The house stood alone. At the end of Sycamore Lane, it was a Victorian mansion, grand yet decaying, its paint peeled a sickly grey. The windows, like vacant eyes, stared out blindly. Locals whispered tales. They spoke of the house being cursed, a place of shadows and sorrow. Some told stories of a family, the Bakers they were called. They had lived there decades ago. Then, one day they vanished, disappeared into thin air. No trace of them was ever found. Only whispers remained, whispers of cold spots and strange noises. The house on Sycamore Lane became a monument to fear, a testament to the darkness that can consume a place. The Bakers were a happy family, or so everyone thought. They lived in a charming house on Sycamore Lane, a place where laughter echoed through the halls and the scent of freshly baked cookies often wafted from the kitchen. The Bakers were well loved in their community, always participating in local events and lending a helping hand to neighbours in need. John Baker, the father, was a respected doctor. He was known for his dedication to his patients and his tireless work ethic. John had a warm smile that could put anyone at ease, and he often volunteered at the local clinic, providing free medical care to those who couldn't afford it. His wife Mary was a talented artist. Her paintings adorned the walls of their home, each one a testament to her creativity and passion. Mary had a gentle spirit and a knack for making everyone feel welcome. She often hosted art classes for the neighbourhood children, encouraging them to explore their own artistic talents. They had 2 children, Thomas and Emily. Thomas, the eldest, was a bright and curious boy with a love for science. He spent hours conducting experiments in his makeshift lab in the basement. Emily, the younger of the 2, was a bundle of energy and joy. She loved to dance and could often be found twirling around the living room in her favourite tutu. They were the picture of a perfect family. Their home was filled with love, laughter, and the occasional sibling squabble. Friends and neighbours admired the Bakers, often commenting on how lucky they were to have such a close-knit family. But every picture has its shadows. Beneath the surface there were whispers of tension. John had been working longer hours, and Mary seemed more withdrawn. The once vibrant household had started to show signs of strain. One cold November evening, the Bakers vanished. No note, no warning. It was as if they had simply disappeared into thin air. The community was left in shock, unable to comprehend how an entire family could just vanish without a trace. Their car remained in the driveway. It was a chilling sight, the vehicle sitting there as if waiting for its owners to return. Dinner sat uneaten on the table. Plates were set, food was prepared, but no one was there to enjoy it. It was as if time had stopped in the middle of an ordinary evening. The only sign that something was wrong, the unsettling silence that had fallen over the house. The once lively home was now eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the usual hustle and bustle, the unsettling silence that had fallen over the house. The air felt heavy, and the shadows seemed to grow longer, as if the house itself was mourning the loss of its inhabitants. Neighbours reported hearing strange noises, whispers in the dead of night, footsteps echoing through the empty halls. It was as if the house was trying to tell its own story, a story of loss and mystery. Whispers carried on the wind. The wind seemed to carry secrets, rustling through the trees and sending shivers down the spines of those who dared to listen. Footsteps in the dead of night, the sound of footsteps, slow and deliberate, echoed through the empty house. It was a haunting reminder that something was terribly wrong. But no one could find the source. The Bakers were gone. Despite thorough searches and countless theories, no one could explain what had happened to the family. It was as if they had been swallowed by the darkness, and the house on Sycamore Lane grew colder, more sinister. The once warm and welcoming home now stood as a chilling reminder of the mystery that had unfolded within its walls. Over time, the house became a place of fear and speculation, a ghostly monument to the vanished Bakers. The Wilkins family arrived in Oak Hollow in the bloom of spring. The air was filled with the scent of fresh flowers, and the trees were adorned with vibrant blossoms. It was the perfect setting for a new beginning, a fresh start in a picturesque town. They were oblivious to the town's whispers. The locals exchanged knowing glances and hushed conversations, but the Wilkins family, caught up in their excitement, paid no heed. They were too busy unpacking boxes and arranging furniture to notice the wary eyes that followed them, to the chilling tales of Sycamore Lane. The street had a reputation, one that sent shivers down the spines of those who dared to speak of it. Stories of strange occurrences and unexplained phenomena were common, but the Wilkins family had yet to hear them. Daniel Wilkins, a writer, was captivated by the house's isolation, its potential for inspiration. He saw it as the perfect retreat, a place where he could immerse himself in his work without distractions. The creaking floors and drafty windows only added to its charm, sparking his imagination. His wife, Sarah, a photographer, saw beauty in its decay. The peeling paint and overgrown garden were subjects she couldn't wait to capture through her lens. She envisioned a series of photographs that would tell the story of the house's past, its former glory, and its current state of disrepair. A story waiting to be told. The house seemed to whisper secrets, its walls holding memories of times long gone. Sarah felt a connection to it, as if it were calling out to her, begging to have its story revealed to the world. Their children, Lily and Ethan, were excited by the adventure. The move was a thrilling experience for them, a chance to explore new spaces and create their own little worlds within the vast old house. Thrilled by the sprawling rooms and the overgrown garden, they spent hours playing hide and seek, their laughter echoing through the empty halls. The garden, with its tangled vines and hidden nooks, became their personal jungle, a place of endless discovery. They didn't feel the chill that ran down their parents' spines. Daniel and Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The house, despite its charm, had an unsettling aura. It was as if they were being watched, though they could never pinpoint the source of their unease. They didn't see the shadows that seemed to linger a moment too long. In the dim light of evening, the house took on a more sinister appearance. Shadows danced on the walls, and the creaks and groans of the old structure seemed to grow louder, more pronounced. The Wilkins family had moved into the house on Sycamore Lane. They were eager to make it their own, to fill it with love and laughter. But the house had its own plans, its own history that refused to be forgotten. Unaware of the darkness that awaited them, as the sun set and the shadows grew longer, the true nature of the house began to reveal itself. The Wilkins family, blissfully unaware, had no idea of the challenges and mysteries that lay ahead. They were about to embark on a journey that would test their courage and their bond as a family. The first few weeks were peaceful, deceptively so. The Wilkins family, eager for a fresh start, had moved into the old house on Elm Street. It was a charming, albeit slightly worn, two-story home with a history that stretched back over a century. The neighbours had spoken fondly of its character, its quirks, and its supposed haunted past, but the Wilkins had laughed it off, attributing such tales to overactive imaginations and local folklore. The Wilkins settled into their new home. They unpacked boxes, filled the rooms with their belongings, and began to make the house their own. The children, Lily and Ethan, were particularly excited, exploring every nook and cranny with wide-eyed wonder. The house, with its creaky floors and drafty windows, seemed to welcome them with open arms. They hung pictures, arranged furniture, and tried to ignore the musty scent that clung to the air, a reminder of the house's age and history. The scent was faint, almost imperceptible, but it lingered, a constant presence that seemed to seep into their very bones. But as the days turned into weeks, things began to change. Subtle shifts in the atmosphere, barely noticeable at first. The house, which had seemed so welcoming, began to feel different. The air grew heavier, the shadows longer, and an unexplainable chill settled into the rooms, easy to dismiss. Sarah, the mother, would hear her name whispered in the dead of night. At first she thought it was her imagination, a trick of the mind, but the whispers grew more frequent, more insistent, until she could no longer ignore them. A breath of air against her ear, cold and unsettling. Daniel, her husband, found his work disturbed. Papers that he had meticulously organized were scattered across his desk, pages rearranged, and words scribbled in a language he didn't recognize. It was as if someone or something was trying to communicate with him. Pages rearranged, words scribbled in a language he didn't recognize. The handwriting was erratic, almost frantic, and the words seemed to pulse with a life of their own. Daniel tried to decipher them, but they eluded him, slipping through his grasp like sand through his fingers. Lily and Ethan started talking about a new friend, a little girl with sad eyes who played with them in the attic. They described her in vivid detail, her pale face, her dark hair, and the way she seemed to appear and disappear at will. The Wilkins dismissed these stories as the product of their children's active imaginations. A little girl with sad eyes who played with them in the attic. She was always there, they said, watching them with a forlorn expression. The Wilkins tried to rationalize these occurrences, attributing them to the house's age and their own stress from the move. The Wilkins dismissed these occurrences, rationalized them away. They told themselves that old houses creak, that drafts can feel like whispers, and that children have vivid imaginations. But deep down, they knew something was wrong. The house was not just old, it was alive, and it was watching them. But a seed of unease had been planted, and it was starting to grow. The whispers, the cold breath, the disturbed papers, and the sad-eyed girl in the attic were all pieces of a puzzle that the Wilkins were only beginning to understand. The house had secrets, dark and terrible secrets, and it was only a matter of time before they would be revealed.